Saw dudes. I recently came out with the Solar Hunter build video and took a break from it, but then I got a god roll of Caliban's hand. I honestly thought that it was a mid-exotic, but it also received some buffs, so I checked it out. With the recent buffs, it causes our proximity knives to apply 60 scorch stacks to targets on detonation, and kills with said knives cause ignitions. While they remain unexploded, we gain 500% additional base melee regen. And as you're seeing in the background, I was not disappointed at all with investing in a build. You can watch the world burn and smile while you receive infinite healing, radiant, and super energy. There's a lot of weapon synergy that goes along with this build, so you can truly adapt it to be your own. I'll have some weapon suggestions in the second half of the video to give you some ideas. Let's get started. The super is up to preference, but I would entirely avoid using Deadshot Golden Gun since it's dog water. Instead, I would choose between Marksman Golden Gun and Barrage. Marksman Golden Gun is great for dealing boss damage and spawns orbs for teammates upon hitting precision shots. It also benefits from being radiant. Barrage is an amazing instant cast super and can double as emergency ad clear. Unlike Golden Gun, it does not benefit from being radiant. The choice is up to you. The dodge I chose to go with was Gambler's Dodge for the on-demand melee regen. For our melee, we will obviously be using Proximity Throwing Knife for its synergy with Caliban's hand. Our Proximity Throwing Knives now scorch targets when they detonate and ignite enemies that we kill with them. It's hard to go wrong with any of the grenades, but since we are aiming to apply Scorch to proc ignitions as much as possible, I chose Incendiary Grenade, which applies more Scorch stacks upon detonation than any other grenade. Alternatively, you can use Thermite Grenade to hold down a specific location. For our aspects, I chose to use Knock 'em Down and On Your Mark. Knock 'em Down gives Marksman Golden Gun increased duration and makes Barrage launch more projectiles. Additionally, it makes it so that final blows with your equipped throwing knife while Radiant fully refund melee energy. This allows us to spam our proximity throwing knives if we kill the right targets. On Your Mark gives us increased weapon handling and reload speed on precision kills, with the buff stacking 3 times. When we dodge, we are automatically granted full stacks. The fragments I chose to use were Ember of Singeing, Empyrean, Searing, Mercy, and Torches. Singeing grants an additional 300% class ability regen rate for 3 seconds after applying Scorch to an enemy. Empyrean extends restoration and radiant effects by 4 seconds for each solar damage kill. Searing grants us melee energy and spawns a fire sprite upon killing a scorched enemy. Mercy grants us restoration for 2 seconds whenever we pick up a fire sprite. And finally, Ember of Torches grants us the radiant buff for 8 seconds when we hit an enemy with our proximity knives. Now it's cowboy armor time. For the helmet, I used Harmonic Siphon, Hands-On, and Special Ammo Finder. Hands-On can be swapped out for a heavy ammo finder if you'd like. On Caliban's hand, I slotted Impact Induction, Heavy-Handed, and Focusing Strike. On the chest, I equipped Harmonic Reserves and 2 variable resistance mods. Switch these out depending on the activity for more survivability. With the cowboy boots, I used Harmonic Scavenger and 2 copies of Solar Weapon Surge, and on the cloak was Bomber, Reaper, and Time Dilation. As usual, go for 100 Resilience for heightened survivability. Otherwise, try going for mobility and then discipline. Let's move on to the weapon loadout section. This might be lengthy, but I made an effort to trim it as much as possible. Weapon loadout 1 is my personal favorite. In the kinetic slot, I used Conditional Finality. In the energy slot, I used Retrace Path. And in the heavy slot, I used Apex Predator. Conditional Finality is just a solid gun, and even though it doesn't synergize well with Solar Surge mods, it does spawn orbs for us and create ignitions for AoE damage. Retrace Path will be our pseudo-primary in this double special loadout, and spreads Scorch stacks for easier ignitions. This can prime our enemies for our knives and cause chain ignitions. Finally, Apex Predator rounds out the DPS for majors and bosses. Weapon loadout 2 is the anti-champion setup. In the kinetic slot, I used Deliverance. In the energy slot, I once again used Retrace Path. And in the heavy slot, I used Gjallarhorn. Deliverance is capable of stunning Overload and Unstoppable champions via Chill Clip, making us a triple threat. If you do not have it, Riptide is just as good and much easier to obtain. Gjallarhorn is used as our heavy weapon due to its innately strong damage and team buffing potential. It can also be great at clearing ads and higher level content. Finally, weapon loadout 3 is the defensive option. The kinetic slot can be taken up by any primary weapon, but my personal favorite would have to be Disparity. The energy slot will be taken up by Judgment of Kel'Garath, and the heavy slot taken by Whisper of the Worm. This is not a double special loadout and is more player friendly. Judgment of Kel'Garath can roll with the combination of Overflow and Incandescent, allowing it to fulfill the role of a Scorch Spreader and Primer. Its guard also gives us wiggle room in hard situations and can really help us out when we do overstep. Whisper is just a very good heavy weapon for bosses and allows us to take a step back to do damage. Since we're playing from a farther distance with it, we don't need to worry as much about enemy fire. I hope you all enjoyed the video. It took me a bit of time to write it up and record, but this build was a ton of fun to test. Thank you for watching, and happy farming.